and welcome to For the Love of Nature, a podcast where we tell you everything you need to know about nature and probably more than you wanted to know. I'm Laura.
And I'm Katy. On today's episode, we're going to talk about how fairy tales would look like, and they would sound very different if they were scientifically accurate.
This episode, I was really excited for, and I thought of the idea because there's these two really great videos on YouTube. If you haven't watched them, please check them out. But it's Scientifically Accurate Spider-Man and Scientifically Accurate Ninja Turtles. And it's the theme songs. And they are amazing. Very scientifically accurate. Very catchy.
And so that's what we're going to talk about. So I picked two fairy tales. Laura picked two fairy tales. And we're going to just go through them. But first, nature news?
Sure.
What is that noise? I think it's my neighbors upstairs.
I don't know. That one had a paywall. Hold on.
Well, I can talk about what I had then.
Yeah, you go.
So, you guys remember way back when we started this podcast, I did the whole let's have Katy walk around the grass for 30 days and see if I changed.
Yeah.
And that was debated. Well, now I live in an apartment, and if I walked in grass anywhere, it'd probably be through, like, dog poop.
Did you got the grounding thing?
No, I did not. Oh, okay. But along the same lines, well, kind of, but there's
You're going to plug yourself in?
No. This is also, because you know how I'm always looking for something to try, like something new to try. Yeah. All right, so there's this stuff called mud water, MUDWTR, and it's a mushroom coffee.
Yes, I saw the stuff for it online. I was nothing could sound more disgusting than that description of that drink.
Right? It sounds horrible, but I do know a few people who drink it and do love it. So I was like, you know what? Let's try it because it's supposed to be the same jolt as coffee without the jitteriness of it. And listen, I'm already on enough stimulant medication for my ADHD. The last thing I need is more. So I'm going to give it a try because why not? And I don't know. I always like trying stuff like this.
I brought this up to my boss the other day because I saw it on Facebook. Like, it was an advertisement for me. And I was like, I love mushrooms, but I do not want to drink them in anything. And I just hate I love their product, like the way they describe the product where it's, if chocolate and the earth had a baby or like something like that. I'm like, no, I bet it tastes like dirt, but I mean, maybe I'll be very curious. I feel about it like the way I do about kombucha or kombucha. Never. Nope, not doing it. Nope.
Yeah. No, and I've tried it too. I've tried that. Can't do it, but I'll try it. And that's my thing is I am always interested to try it. Again, I'm not like a tree hugger, but at heart I am. And I love it.
I'm not, but I am.
I love trying stuff out like this. I don't know. I think it's fun. So I'll give anything a little of a shot. So we'll see. I was trying to see what was all in it.
Yeah.
It said if Marsala chai and hot cocoa had a baby.
That's right.
A really healthy baby is what it said.
Hi. That sounds good.
It's supposed to give you energy. It's supposed to give you energy, focus, and the immunity, like good stuff in it, without the jitters, crash, and dependency on it. So we'll see.
That would be lovely,
right? I'll let you guys know.
Please do. I do have a very short thing for nature news. So this article on BBC says ancient eel migration mystery unraveled, and you guys would be really surprised, but did you know that we have no idea where the heck baby eels come from? Like, the entire eel migration thing is a mystery.
It's a mystery.
They just show up, like they are born in the fresh water, they go to the ocean, and then they just disappear, and nobody's ever seen them have sex. Nothing. Like, they do not know. They just know that they go to the Sargasso Sea, and then something happens.
Something happens.
Could be magic. Who knows? Yeah. Apparently, this is actually real. I think this is pretty exciting.
Did eels make a sex tape?
That would be so good.
Just like strap a tiny GoPro to one of them and let's see what happens.
Found him. Apparently.
Surprise!
Their final destination has long been suspected, but now they finally did it, and it's been virtually impossible to fit them with satellite tags. Well, they did. Apparently, they figured it out. They put little satellite things on them.
Slippery.
They have no arms and legs, and they're slippery as an eel. They're the definition of...
Yeah.
So they did get to track the eels on the last of their journey, and they did track them to the Sargasso Sea. Basically, the conservation of eels is becoming more and more of a thing. Almost 100 years ago, it was assumed that they went there, but only now do we actually have proof that they go there.
Yeah.
Before, I mean, Aristotle thought they came from mud, so at least we've come from there.
Yeah. We're making some progress on
So
eel.
we are trying to unravel the mystery of eels. I actually saw my first ever eel. 2 of them this summer.
Oh, really? Cool.
In the creek. I was freaking out, okay? I was with a whole bunch of teenagers, well, preteens, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's an eel! And so they were all trying to help me catch it, and it was hecka slippery. I couldn't get it. I was so mad that I couldn't grab it. I tried, but I couldn't.
The first time I ever saw an eel was Australia. I can't remember what kind of eel it would have been.
Oh. And I mean, of course I've seen him in the zoo, but like in the creek, like a freshwater creek, I was in heaven.
Right? Yeah, no, I just remember we rode mopeds and bikes and then did like a bunch of rock hopping back to this little pool because it was winter there, and so like the water receded and there was a bunch of big waterfalls. It was all beautiful. We're like, hey, it's even though it's winter, it's still warm and sunny that day. I mean, we're up outside of Cairns, so far northeast Queensland, so still toasty. We're like, hey, let's dive in. And we saw this huge eel come out. We're like, you know what? Not today. Because it was a huge freaking eel.
Yeah, no, mine were 6 inches long.
Yeah, no, these were
maybe a little
huge.
longer.
Yeah,
they're just babies.
Yeah, no. Nope. Alrighty, do we want to talk about fairy tales? Just
absolutely. Kim, I know, is really excited for this one.
Kim was.
She said that we had really good fairy tales to do. So we're gonna wreck everybody's fairy tale. I mean, this is literally just.
But also, listen, guys, this goes back to the thing. Fairy tales are so screwed up.
Yeah, screwed up.
So screwed up.
And like the whole thing is trying to come up with a moral and things like that, but
I don't know where they were getting. They do, because 90% of what they do is completely in the opposite realm of moral anything. And then they're like, "But let's teach you a good lesson." No, you realize what just happened here. And both of mine have. I'm just like, why? I would be embarrassed to even write about this, and then know it's gonna be published. And they're like, no, it needs that. That's the way it needs to happen.
So I guess too. Of course, guys, fairy tales are inherently scientifically inaccurate. So, duh. But we're gonna talk about like some of the smaller things that, like, okay. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
I can go first.
Go for it. All right.
So the first one that I have is Jack and the Giant Beanstalk.
Nice.
Because, of course, Beanstalk, hello. Nature podcast, it only made sense.
Plants.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and we'll break down the story in pieces, and so we can explain a little bit more how it should have been written. So,
because, we're better.
We're just better at this. So let me give you a little bit of,
tell me a story.
Yeah, or I was trying to think, because we were going to divide it up, but this one, it's a little bit difficult to divide it up. So I'm going to jump back and forth here a little bit. All right, so for those of you who haven't read Jack and the Beanstalk recently, here's a refresher. This is a very short version from Wikipedia. Thank you, Wikipedia. Jack, a poor country boy, trades the family cow for a handful of magic beans, which grow into a massive towering beanstalk reaching up into the clouds. Jack climbs the beanstalk and finds himself in the castle of an unfriendly giant. The giant senses Jack's presence and cries, "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." Outwitting the giant, right? Outwitting the giant, Jack is able to retrieve many goods once stolen from his family, including a bag of gold, an enchanted goose that lays golden eggs, and a magic golden harp that plays and sings by itself. Jack then escapes by climbs back down, chops down, and the giant who is pursuing him falls to his death, and Jack and his family prosper. Okay, which you're like, go, Jack, let's pause for a freaking second.
Yeah.
And let's talk about, I'm going to snippet of the history and some of the freaking, what did I just read? All right, so the original story that was published in London by a J. Roberts in 1734 was called Jack Springings and the Enchanted Bean. So
The Enchanted Bean.
The Enchanted Bean. And
just
of
one.
course, just one. And of course you have one version and then all the spin-offs from it, which is how fairy tales happen. So clearly, this first one, there's a reason why there was like spin-offs of it, because it is not at all meant for children, like most fairy tales. I don't want to go into super great detail because it was just horrible. But if you look up the Jack Springings and the Enchanted Bean storyline, you'll probably regret it forever. But basically, any kids in the area want to close their ears. What happens is the reason why the giant stole the stuff to begin with is because the grandma, and the newer versions, it's the boy's mom basically won't give him those beans. No, in the original one, it's his grandma. And the reason why she won't give him these beans is because she's like, if I give him this bean and then he'll, you know what, this is going to be mine now. If you guys are going to be this horrible, this stuff's going to be mine.
Oh, okay. So the giant sees that they're immoral and takes their things.
Basically, kind of. It doesn't really say that he saw it as immoral, but the giant came down and stole from them. Like, why specifically them? I mean, one can assume. Go up, he'll get stuff, he'll prosper. But the reason why, and he'll leave me, essentially. She's keeping him hostage in his house.
Yeah.
Because she's been laying next to him, is what it says. Yup. And so the giant steals all their crap, takes it up into his castle, and it's a grandma holding their grandson hostage, and just creepy, just stuff that should not be happening is happening. In other versions, the giant is unnamed, but many name him Blunderbore, which is his name in one of the stories, in one of the versions, called Jack the Giant Killer, which is really harsh.
I have heard that.
And in the story of Jack Springs, another version, the giant's name is Gog-Magog.
Gog-Magog. I've definitely heard that name before too, but I don't think it was in from Jack.
Gog-Magog and Blunderbore. And I feel like those need to be stated, because I feel like instead of just saying the giant, we should refer to him. We should
definitely be saying Gog-Magog.
and Blunderbore. So there are a ton of different versions, but yeah, and that's why there's probably spin-offs, because that is just creepy as all get out. All right, so let's start with the first key factor here, the beanstalk. Obviously, the centerpiece of the story. Besides the immorality of creepy grandmothers, there are way more species of beans in the world than I think we actually need to know about. There are approximately...
Please tell me how many.
400 different bean species, which is way more beans than what I ever anticipated. Because I primarily eat like pinto and black beans, you know what I mean? What are the other 398 beans? Like, I'm just not.
Your colon is missing out on so much.
Right? I need to explore this other 398 beans. Most of these bean plants only grow a few feet high, but the world record for the tallest beanstalk,
thank goodness there is one,
right, is from a runner bean plant, which was 46 feet high.
Hey, that's respectable.
It is.
But it couldn't be climbed on, right? Like, it's
correct.
Not thick.
No, it is like a little scrawny. So this record stalk, however, is one of those, it's the tiny flimsy that needs support. So if Jack went this route, it would probably be called Jack and the Giant Pole and Beanstalk. Because
Jack the Pole. Jack the Pole Climber.
Yeah, because it's like, it's going to fall over. There's no way. But if they were scientifically accurate, there are larger plants out there that Jack could climb, in particular vines. And so I'm not going to go into like redwoods, because we all know redwood trees are very tall, but they're here in the US. Jack and the Beanstalk was from Europe. And I mean, so we might as well be
I'm already
accurate.
loving this. What's the tallest plant he could have climbed in Europe?
The vine. Because that would make sense. There are stable vines. So, of course, this is for the love of nature. So we're going to tell you all the impractical ideas instead of the practical ones. So in the longest vine category, because who doesn't love a good vine to climb? I'm going to give you the top 3 longest vines. Coming in at number 3, the philodendron, which is both their common name and their scientific name. And though these can grow to be 1,114 feet long, they also are native to Central America. So again, Jack would not have this one in London. The next vine is the ribbon vine. Now, the record vine was found in Suriname, also South America, so it's also out of the game, but that one has been known to grow in 1,968 feet, which is about 0.3 miles.
Dang!
Yeah, so I'm not, well, still, but 0.3 miles, I'm not sure where Jack was climbing to, but it's probably not far if he's only going up that high. So the only
It was a cloudy day. So they were real low.
Very low. The only one that even comes close to length and the location, which is predominantly in Asia, and it still goes into Europe some. Let's see here. The lowest clouds that are recorded are at around 6,500 feet. So on a very low cloud day. But this one is called the snuff box sea bean or the elephant creeper. And this one is at 4,900 feet or just shy of a mile. So that is pretty high. Still not,
Well, long, right? Not high.
Yes, it's long. Yeah. But this one is a little bit more stable than some of the other ones. It's not like a little, like philodendron for crying out loud. It's like a house plant. So almost, but not quite. But also Jack and the snuff box bean, sea bean, or Jack and the elephant creeper. I don't know.
Elephant creeper is a cool one.
The elephant, but it also sounds like you're creeping on elephants.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Jack and the elephant creeper. Or an elephant who's being creepy.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. So the other factors within the story is although we know that the town in the sky could not simply exist, maybe it is on the side of a mountain cliff and they just don't know their local topography. What is that? When Jack met Blunderbore / Gog Magog up there, giganticism is a very, like... it's a very real condition. I tried to say with such a straight face before I lost it. But it's a real thing.
This is exactly what I hope this episode would be like. A scientist taking things just way too far, and literally.
But it is. So, giganticism and Blunderbore, it's very rare, but it happens when a child or adolescent has high levels of growth hormone in their body, which causes them to grow very tall. Giganticism is actually treatable, which I didn't know that.
That's cool.
You just have to be able to diagnose it early enough. And so that's predominantly why you don't see giganticism as much anymore, because we can treat it. Like, I mean, kids get blood work, they see the signs and symptoms, doctors can normally point it out, and they're like, hey, something's going on here, and they can treat it, and it is curable, where back in the day, you ended up just having way too many growth hormones. And so you can prevent giganticism because there are a lot of problems, like heart problems and other major organ issues. There are very tall people, and then there's giganticism, which are two completely different things. The pituitary gland, which is located at the base of your brain, normally produces growth hormones, but a tumor on their pituitary, which oftentimes is what they like have found, which my sister has one on her pituitary, which is why we say she's so tall compared to the rest of my family. And when I say so tall, she's 5'6". But that's very tall for a woman in our family. But because that tumor is there, your pituitary is going to produce an excess growth hormone and result in giganticism. It's more commonly affects children assigned male at birth than female at birth. Some characteristics, again, their outward characteristics, it's a very prominent forehead and prominent jaw, gaps between their teeth, thickening of the facial features, large hands and feet with thick fingers and toes. Some other more unfortunate ones, which is why you really want to make sure you catch it early, is, like I said before, the enlargement of internal organs, especially your child's heart, excessive sweating, double vision or difficulty with side vision, like out of your peripherals, constant headaches, joint pains, delayed puberty, irregular menstruation for females, sleeping problems such as sleep apnea, and extreme muscle weakness. So you might be really tall and big, but your muscles just can't keep up.
That's so sad.
Right? So really, this poor blunderbore is honestly probably living in the sky to avoid being made fun of, with a killer headache and constant joint pain, excessively sweating with sleep apnea, just trying to get some treasure from a creepy old grandma, and just living his life up there. I mean, I would be bitter and probably want to be like fee-fi-fo-fumming and and smelling blood of Englishmen to make his bones into your bread. I mean, I would be kind of bitter too if I was made fun of my whole life. So that's Jack and the Giant Beanstalk. I just wanted to focus on a couple things. There's so much more you can pull out of that, especially, good Lord, if you pull out, like, the original version.
Oh my.
I mean, besides the creepy grandma, there's all kinds of stuff that is like, what the heck did I just read? But those are the highlights. Beanstalk, we'll just call it Jack and the Elephant Creeper, and giganticism is real, folks, but treatable. Laura.
Oh, man. I've always felt bad for the giant in that story, right? Because he was just minding his own business, and Jack came and stole his stuff.
And then
killed him.
Yeah, and then now we might know why the giant killed him. And in one of the versions, so the giant has a normal sized wife, and so Jack like sneaks into the house, and the wife sees him, and she's like, "Yeah, go ahead and take one thing." And so the wife is like trying to give it back, so like, she knows the husband's gonna come back and be all angry and stuff. But so I mean, the giant again, just try to keep a peace, and he's staying away from people. But this little punk is coming and stealing all his stuff.
Right? And you didn't even address the fact that, like, he says that he can grind his bones to make his bread. What kind of freaking bread is that giant eating? I
mean, crunchy
bone meal bread.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Add a little to it, you know.
Add a little.
Yeah. All right, what's your first one?
My first one I'm gonna do is called Little Red Cap by the Brothers Grimm, and it's where Little Red Riding Hood comes from.
Yep.
So
I already can tell you. Continue.
Let's just go through this story.
Yeah.
It is not only, so I'm gonna stop and make some observations here about both science and, in general, WTF of what's going on.
Yes, right? Fairy tales. What the heck are people...
Those Brothers Grimm ones in particular are really weird.
Messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, continue.
So this one was written by the Brothers Grimm, and these two were German brothers who lived from 1785 to 1863. So, older. Okay, here we go. Once upon a time, there was a sweet little girl. Everyone who saw her liked her, but most of all her grandmother, who did not know what to give the child next. Once she gave her a little cap made of red velvet because it suited her so well, and she wanted to wear it all the time. She came to be known as Little Red Cap. Okay, weird nickname.
Yeah. I mean, nowhere comes even close to Princess Dirty Toes. So
very true.
That is
Laura's nickname. I would just be like, this is a lame nickname. I don't want to be called just after my hat. What if I'm not wearing it?
Yeah.
So her mother said to her, "Come, Little Red Cap, here's a piece of cake and a bottle of wine. Take them to your grandmother. She is sick and weak, and they will do her well."
I'm so excited.
Pause again. Wine and cake. This grandmother...
Listen, that would make me do well. I mean, I would feel so much better.
I don't think that there is much medical...
To cake?
Back
it
here?
soothes the soul. Like... And
yeah, no, emotionally.
Tell me something that wine can't fix. Like,
agreed.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
The mom, no, listen, you're judging the mom. The mom knew what she was doing. Because the mom,
grandmother.
The mom is now a mom and is like, you know what? I am saying I'm sorry to my mother because I know. Because really, the mom probably just needs a break and is sending
I just hope that whatever the grandma has isn't diabetes or something else that she's sick and weak from. because cake is not going to help it.
It's not. But I can see the mom being like, I need a break.
That's what this is about. This is just send out little red cap. Yeah. This is...
Send out little red cap, and then here's an apology gift for my mom, because I'm sure I bugged the crap out of her like this. Here you go, cake and wine. Onward, child.
So her mom says, mind your manners and give her my greetings. Behave yourself in the way and do not leave the path, or you might fall down and break the glass, and then there'll be nothing for your grandmother. And when you enter her parlor, don't forget to say good morning and don't peer into all their corners first. Okay, this is some weird,
what are in the corners?
My mom always gave me pretty weird advice, I thought, as a kid, going out, like, all right, now if you're going to go outside and play, make sure you don't pick up any needles or any balloons. Yeah. I was always like, that's a really weird thing to specifically tell me. Makes sense now. But, again, like a weird thing, like, don't look into the corners first.
Don't look into the corners. Okay, hold on. Go ahead, continue. I'm going to look and try to see what
there's just got to be a phrase. I'm assuming, like, I don't know. Don't look at how weird your grandma's house. Like, don't judge your grandma's house. I don't know.
Maybe.
But so
all I'm saying is a lot of thing about cutting corners. Nothing about not looking into
don't peer in all the corners first. Yeah. I don't know. So I don't know what kind of relationship Little Red Cap has with her mom, but she says I'll do everything just right and shakes her mother's hand.
Clearly a very formal relationship.
A very formal relationship. The grandmother lived out in the woods a half hour from the village, okay? And
how is Little Red Cap? That's a hike.
Definitely. Well, and approximately, so it says she lives a half an hour from the village. So the average walking speed of a child...
Did you figure this out?
The internet told me.
Thank you.
Average walking speed, thank you, internet. It usually takes a kid 20 minutes to walk a mile. So average walking speed for a 5 to 12-year-old is 2.89 to 3.1 miles per hour.
Okay.
So yeah, it could be like every bit of a mile, maybe more. So she goes.
And I assume she's going to skip part of this way because she's, a little kid.
Right. Oh, surely frolicking is involved. Yeah. When Little Red Cap entered the woods, a wolf came up to her. Just boom, right off the bat. She walks into the woods and a wolf happens.
Yeah.
All right, stop here for scientific accuracy. This is very unlikely to have ever happened because typically wolves don't approach people. However, they have been known to hunt solo. So, like, they don't always hunt in packs. Sometimes they do hunt alone. So the fact that one wolf came up to her, that's not as weird as the fact that a wolf came up at all.
Yeah.
And but I guess if it was really, really hungry, but if this was the case, then our story would end right here because that wolf would have just eaten this
emaciated
child.
Wolf. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not anymore, but yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. She didn't know what a wicked animal he was and was not afraid of him. Again, wicked, that's a really strong term here because that implies that the wolf has some sense of morality and it's a wolf. Yeah, so he's just doing
wolves do.
Yeah. So the wolf says, "Good day to you, Little Red Cap." All right, we're just going to ignore the fact the wolves can... Yeah, he's obviously been watching her. Creepy. Yeah. She says, "Thank you, wolf. Where are you going so early, Little Red Cap?" "To grandmother's." "And what are you carrying under your apron?" That's a weird thing. "Are you happy to see me? What's under your apron?"
Yeah, right.
Grandmother
is that a bottle of wine? No, it's not. Are you happy?
"Grandmother is sick and weak, and I'm taking her some cake and wine. We baked yesterday, and they should be good for her and give her strength." "Little Red Cap, where does your grandmother live?" This is just a stranger danger story in general. Like, he's asking a lot of questions. "Her house is a good quarter hour from here in the woods, under the 3 large oak trees. There's a hedge of hazel bushes. You must know the place," said Little Red Cap.
She is so specific. But this is also very much so like a little kid. Like, you crack the head of a little kid, they're going to spill the beans on everything.
I also think that this obviously must have been the time before people cared if their kids were eaten by wolves. Because you wouldn't, why would you send your kid into wolf-infested forest? Unless this is all just a ploy of the mom is just donezo with Little Red Cap.
Yeah. Go out there and play with the wolves. Yeah.
Just go take these to your grandma's. Hopefully a wolf will eat her while she's out.
Wink.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, there's the Little Red Cap just shakes her mom's hand like, okay. Like, none the wiser.
The wolf thought to himself, now that sweet young thing is a tasty bite for me. She will taste even better than the old woman. You must be sly and you can catch them both.
I'm just...
Okay, so creepy.
I'm gonna hold all the jokes.
Yeah. Ugh. But scientific accuracy pause. Wolves hunt in 2 ways. Ambush or chasing. Either way, it doesn't involve thought-ahead traps. So like...
Or pleasantries of greetings.
Yeah, but I'm thinking in particular, no wolf is thinking, okay, if I wait and trick this kid, it will lead me... No, this is way too...
They don't set traps for elk. Like,
right.
That's not what happens.
If they do start doing that, we're done for.
Yeah, that's terrifying. Ugh.
Also, one little girl would be plenty for one wolf to eat. Not to be morbid.
He should have just taken her there. I mean, and he could have saved himself a ton of problems.
A ton of trouble.
There. Yeah.
And because the average wolf can eat 20 pounds of meat in a single meal, and surely little Redcap is more than 20 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, Alora is now 20 pounds, and she's only 1, and I'm not sending her anywhere alone. So little Redcap's probably at least 7.
Yeah.
So, yeah, plenty for one wolf. He walked along a little while with little Redcap, then said, Little Redcap, just look at the beautiful flowers that are all around us. Blah, 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 blah. He convinces her to go off into the woods. She is like, oh my gosh, these flowers are so beautiful. And she runs off the path into the woods looking for flowers, like an idiot. Okay.
Exactly what her mom told her. She shook her mom's hand on this, and
I know,
so
broke her word. So little Redcap is going off. She's picking all sorts of flowers. It says each time she picked one, she thought she could see an even more beautiful one a little way off, and she ran after it, going further and further. Do you know how many toxic flowers there are in the world?
Right.
Like, a lot, okay? Yeah. And in Germany, there are some extremely toxic plants. Giant hogweed grows there now, although it might not have at the time. But things like poison hemlock, which we've talked about in previous episodes, that kills children all the time.
Yep.
And is a pretty flower that little Redcap would probably like to pick, stinging nettles, all sorts of things.
I do understand her pain, though, because if I'm out herping, like looking for salamanders and stuff, there's always like a rock or a log
a little further away.
Right over there.
Yes.
So I do understand the temptation of being like, I can go flip that rock. I can go flip that rock. Clearly, that's where it is.
Yeah, I feel like little Redcap's probably ADHD.
Yeah, right? That's why we relate.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I understand.
Yeah. So, anyway, while this is going on, the wolf goes to Grandma's house. He knocks. She asks who's there. He says, Little Redcap, I'm bringing you some cake and wine. Open the door. First of all, geez.
Yeah. Suddenly, where did his manners go?
Yeah. Secondly, I feel like the only way that this would work is if the grandma had bad hearing, because how could you mistake your granddaughter's voice for a wolf?
Or just like a man's, because you imagine, like, it has
That's
to
what I'm saying. Yeah, it'd have to be gruff at the very least, you'd think. So he goes in, he eats her.
We should good. Would it have been easier just to eat the little girl?
Then he puts on her clothes, puts on her cap, goes into bed, pulls the curtain shut. So little Redcap, who's gotten her little bouquet at this time, she continues on her way. To her surprise, she finds the door open. She walks into the parlor. Everything looks so strange, and she thought, I really hope this is the line that is from the story. She says, oh my God, why am I so afraid? I usually like it at grandmother's.
I would have looked into the corners this time.
Yes, and probably saw insane amounts of blood from grandmother being eaten.
The massacre that just happened.
Or at least subconsciously smelled the metallic smell of blood. Yeah. Because, eating your grandma would be messy.
There's gotta be something left behind.
So she calls out, like, Grandma, thinking, something might be off. She goes in, she looks, she sees her grandmother lying in bed, but looking really weird. Again, there's only a few options for how this could have worked. Either little Redcap has some serious vision and hearing issues, or she's just really dumb.
Yeah.
Because it'd be pretty hard to mistake, I guess I forgot a third one, or her grandmother was really not
hairy?
Really hairy. Yeah.
Just a really hairy grandma.
So
I've seen them. I mean, just
yeah, that's true. I'll probably be a really hairy grandma. Being honest. Yeah. So she does, for any of you that haven't read Little Red Riding Hood, Little Redcap does the, oh, grandmother, what big ears you have. Better to hear you. Grandmother, what big eyes you have. Blah, blah, blah. Then
She's got to be dumb at this point. Like,
yeah. You're not figuring this out yet from the first thing?
Yeah.
Then she goes, oh, grandmother, what big hands you have. False. Grandmother doesn't have hands. Grandmother has paws.
Paws.
Okay.
Yeah.
And paws don't even look like hands. Little red cap.
Not even close. Hairy arms, paws, not the same.
So finally she says, what a big mouth, all the better to eat you. He then gets up and he eats her in one giant gulp. And then he climbs back into bed, falls asleep, and begins to snore really loud.
Because, you know.
So that's what you do after you get a full belly, yeah.
Yeah.
So a huntsman is passing by, and he thinks, that old woman is snoring so loudly, you'd better see if something's wrong with her. So either really nice guy or just really nosy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he goes in, and he's like, he says, so here I find you, you old sinner. I've been hunting for you a long time. Again, little harsh, little, morality judgment here. He was about to aim his rifle and blow this wolf to kingdom come when he thinks that the wolf might have eaten grandmother and that she still might be rescued. Nope, not what happens when you eat something.
That's not what happens, yeah.
There's no living person inside
you know what?
anymore.
I love the optimism, but no.
Yeah. So what he decides to do instead is take a pair of scissors and cut open the wolf's stomach. Ugh.
Wait, did he shoot the wolf?
No, he doesn't. He's like, she might be in there. So instead, he cuts it open with a pair of scissors that he just has handy. Alive?
Okay, because that's
brutal.
not any worse.
Listen, the wolf is still sleeping here. After a few cuts, he sees the little red cap.
Out.
Yeah. Girl jumps out. She says, oh, I was so frightened. It was so dark inside the wolf's body. Nope, not what happens.
Yeah.
Then Grandma comes out. She's okay. Then, for some reason, Little Red Cap fetches some very large stones and fills the wolf's body with them.
That's morbid.
Like, is it to, like, when he wakes up, he still thinks he's full?
Probably, yeah.
I guess? Because then he wakes up, which,
but
again...
he can't poop those out, you know?
Absolutely would have woken up at the first cut of those scissors.
Right?
But let's say he didn't. He tries to get out, runs away, and the stones were so heavy that he immediately fell down dead. But I assure you, this was not from the stones. This was from being disemboweled.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. There's a few more problems here than just stones in his belly.
Yeah. So the three of them were happy. The huntsman skins the wolf. And then the grandma and Little Red Cap eat and drink wine. And then Little Red Cap thinks to herself, as long as I live, I will never leave the path and run off into the woods myself if Mother tells me not to. The end.
Again, it's these German fairy tales that are just like harsh.
I'm also not sure if this is the best, like, moral or message of the story. Yeah, oh, for sure, scare tactics. But listen, if the only thing that they got out of this story is don't leave the path, I really think that the message here should be something like, maybe don't listen to strangers.
Yeah, there's so many more. Don't
walk alone through wolf-infested forests.
There's a lot.
Talk to your kids about the dangers of talking woodland creatures. Like, any of those things.
The differences between a wolf and a grandma, like just the parents, voice, everything. Oh, goodness.
So that's Little Red Cap and how incredibly inaccurate it is.
All right, you ready for my next one?
Yes, please.
Sleeping Beauty. All right, shall we begin? Of course.
Yes, please.
Because that's why we're here. Sleeping Beauty is the French title of the story, but there's another name it goes by, the German title, which in English is Little Briar Rose.
Oh, yeah.
Sleeping Beauty begins with a princess whose parents are told by a wicked fairy that their daughter will die when she pricks her fingers on a particular item. In some versions, the item is flax, like the plant, like a flax seed.
Just a plant?
Yep. Or in the version that seems to be the more popular one is the spindle.
Yeah.
The parents rid the kingdom of these items in hopes of protecting their daughter, but the prophecy is fulfilled regardless. Because there wouldn't be a story if it wasn't fulfilled. So, of course, something has to go wrong. Instead of dying, though, like the wicked fairy said, the princess falls into a deep sleep. So, the fairy was only half right. After some time, she is found by a prince and is awakened. Some versions, the prince just kisses her and the true horror in messed up fairy tale form. Another version says, so one is the prince, which is what Disney took, okay? Just kisses her, done. The other one, again, children, divert your ears.
What's he gonna do?
Listen, so there's a king that was out hunting. The king came across Sleeping Beauty, who seemed to be enchanted. He believed that she was asleep, but he called her. She remained unconscious. Crying aloud, he, quote unquote, beheld her charms and felt his blood course hotly through his veins. He he lifted her in his arms and carried her to a bed where he gathered the first fruits of love.
Oh my gosh.
Right? WTF. Why fairy tales? Why? And, you know, like as a
consent
child,
doesn't matter.
Ever.
You know,
yeah.
Ever has.
Doesn't matter. But these kind of creepy things happen way too often in fairy tales. Anyway, so he leaves her on the bed. The king returned to his own kingdom where, in
9 months she shows up.
Basically, yeah. So he for a time thought he thought nothing else of the incident. He's like, bah, whatever, that just did that, nothing. And after some time she gave birth to twins. So there are
Poor Sleeping Beauty.
Right? There are other versions, which I didn't know this either, of the story that include a second part of the narrative that details the couple's troubles after their union, like with the kids and everything. But some other folklorists think that they were two completely separated stories, had nothing to do with each other, but same names, everything. So anyway. And this part has nothing to do with the podcast other than sharing more useless knowledge. But I didn't know about this part either. The second part begins after the prince and princess, like I said, had children. Through the course of the tale, the princess and her children are introduced in some way to another woman from the prince's life. The other woman is not fond of the prince's new family and calls to a cook to kill the children and serve them for dinner. Instead of obeying, the cook hides the kids and serves livestock. Next, the other woman, with clear jealousy issues, orders the cook to kill the princess. Before this can happen, the other woman's true nature is revealed to the prince, and then she is subjected to the very death that she planned for the princess. The princess, prince, and children live happily ever after.
Eating her.
Pretty much, yep. So besides that creepy last part, let's just break down the beginning part of it. First off, there's a couple different scenarios here. A lot of people say that Sleeping Beauty would have had narcolepsy, but that's not true. There are two situations though here that could explain her actions. First off, poisoning. Now, there was a botanist who lived in the early 1500s who created a book called Herbal. And this book gives the rundown on a lot of the plants that were inspired various poisonings in Shakespeare's plays, from Nightshade to Hebona and a whole lot more. A lot of death in Shakespeare's plays were fairly common knowledge in the early 1500s, and the earliest writing of Sleeping Beauties appeared in the 1300s. But the more popular versions of Sleeping Beauties didn't come until the 1600s, like when it really became popular. So it was after the different plant poisonings were fairly well known. So it's very likely that the fairy/witch, you want to call her, to fulfill her own prophecy and make it look like she knows what she's talking about, totally could have used herbs to knock her out and not kill her if she really wanted to. Also, around this time frame, a potion called Dual was used as a general anesthetic in surgeries. This alcohol-based mixture contained bile, opium, lettuce. What the heck?
Jeez.
Yeah, bimony, henbane, hemlock, and vinegar.
Dang, henbane and hemlock are both poisons, I know.
Yep. So maybe the fairy was also a practicing physician or a medical school dropout.
With a grudge.
With a grudge against these two. So we'll never know. But to reinforce it, there is plenty in nature that if she wanted to self-fulfill this prophecy, because if you gotta think of it this way. Kings and queens, they did nothing for themselves back then. You know what I mean? Even as far as common knowledge, a lot of times, yes, they were educated, but it's the street smarts side of it. You know what I mean? Like the herbal stuff that clearly this witch/fairy would have had. And especially if it was the spindle, dude, put some poison on there, boom. And then that, easy, so easy to do. And that fairy witch lady could have just kept coming back. Now, the second scenario, narcolepsy. All right, now the whole quote-unquote sleep part seems to be misled as just narcolepsy, which is a lot of what people have said.
Yeah, because that doesn't make sense, because narcolepsy is so short-term.
But there is something that people actually said that she probably had, which was Klein-Levin syndrome. And this is also called recurrent hypersomnia. And it's a rare sleep disorder characterized by recurrent episodes of severe hypersomnia associated with cognitive and behavior disturbances such as confusion, derealization, apathy, compulsive eating, and hypersexuality. Right? So, jeez. Episodes last a few days.
Loving all the finer things in life. Sleep, food, and...
food, sex. Yeah. Bingo. These episodes, though, these sleep spells, last a few days to several weeks.
Oh my gosh!
And are separated by weeks or months of normal sleep and behavior. So, again, narcolepsy comes in short bursts and is short term. Klein-Levin syndrome is very rare, with an estimated prevalence of 1 to 5 cases per million people. And it's predicted in the 1500s, France had around 15 million people there. So there could be at least another 15 people in France at the time who had this syndrome. Which, again, leads me to believe and guess the fairy was a med school dropout. And that she knew that she either recognized the symptoms as that Sleeping Beauty had as a kid and was like, because it would kind of happen in bursts and then sort of progress and get, especially whenever you have conditions like this, like after puberty. And they said Sleeping Beauty, I forget what they predicted. Like, she was freaking young.
Yeah, they predict that, at least in some versions, she's a baby when they say it. And
yeah, like, super young. So anyway, chances are it was the fairy witch med school dropout could have either just known about this condition or, again, poisoning. Now, the prince waking her up, both scenarios of poisoning or Klein-Levin syndrome are possible. You can obviously wake somebody up with this syndrome. So maybe Sleeping Beauty, because she was left to lie there quietly for so long, just needed a little, I don't know, shaking to be woken up. But the whole king scenario thing then, that should have woken her up. I mean, unless he was that bad. But anyway, so because she would have woken up with anything, like, because these people, you can wake them up, that definitely then leads to poisoning or anesthesia. Again, not so much. Yeah,
somebody's just drugging her the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. But if the fairy witch, I mean, especially back then, if you get into, even though it's like in a negative light, you know, because like Rasputin, like, look how many people were like, Rasputin really wasn't a good person, but like he stuck close to the, it's the Russian Tsar.
The Romanovs.
Family. Yeah, the Romanovs. For so long. And it's like a lot of people held positions of powers like that within kingdoms. Yes, this is a fairy tale and that was real life. But, I mean, in so many different aspects, even though it is seen in a negative light, they would do whatever they had to do to keep that position of power. Because at this point, the fairy/witch lady does have all the power over the parents because she's the only one that has predicted it. And so she has kind of like the upper hand in the situation. So there is a lot more, but Sleeping Beauty, because a lot of people are like, wow, it's narcolepsy. No, it's really not. I think it's poisoning. And the spindle is a likely situation. I mean, you could put poison on a plant, but chances are it's going to absorb it or it's not really going to do much. So spindle, poison.
And then constant application.
Constant repoisoning. Or the general anesthesia, which is nuts. But,
yeah, that's
or maybe both. I don't know. Yeah. All right, what's your last one?
Cinderella. So also a French one. So they're like Sleeping Beauty. There have been a million different versions of this throughout the world. But the one that I wanted to go with, that's the first version that is most similar to what we know from like Disney stuff, is Cendrillon ou la petite pantoufle du verre, which is Cinderella or the little glass slipper.
I was gonna say, I knew something was little, but that's about it.
Yeah. By Charles Perrault in 1697. So he wrote one that's very similar to what Disney took and ran with, which is that a wealthy widower had a beautiful young daughter, a girl of unparalleled kindness and sweet temper. Unparalleled kindness is a very strong statement. Like, I hope I would have liked her, but hopefully she didn't come off as too good.
Yeah,
too
right?
nice.
Nobody likes those people.
The gentleman marries a proud and haughty woman as a second wife. She has 2 daughters who are equally vain and selfish. Now, to be fair, we have to, a lot of us know from psychology.
There's always 2 sides to every story. But.
Yeah, they were probably raised to be vain and selfish if their mother was. So, we can be mad at the mom. We probably shouldn't be mad at the stepsisters. The girl is forced into servitude by her stepmother, where she's made to work day and night doing menial chores. Where the heck is her father at this time? Being forced, as she's being forced into this. After the girl's chores are done for the day, she curls up near the fireplace in an effort to stay warm. Okay, smart, but depending on the fireplace, incredibly dangerous. One stray coal will catch you on fire.
I'll say though, like we had a real fireplace in our house growing up, and I frequently would stand in front of it. But we had one of those like metal guard things.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, this I'm sure was like a naked fireplace.
It's open. Yeah, it's open.
And cold stone probably. But apparently this was very common for maids at the time. This sleeping maids in general were often covered in ashes because of not just cleaning, but also because they usually slept in the basement of houses because they weren't allowed to sleep on the main floor. And so the only way for them to stay warm would be to literally sleep in the fireplace as close as they could to the warmth, which is tragic.
All right, jeez.
She would often arise covered in ashes, giving rise to the mocking name Cendrillon, which is Cinderella in English, by her stepsisters. Cinderella bears the abuse patiently and doesn't tell her father, who would have scolded her. Okay, so I guess that explains where he's at, but what a jerk.
Dad.
Yeah, I guess, unless hopefully she didn't just assume that he would be mad at her. I just never said anything. One day, the prince invites all of the people in the land to a royal ball. Again, wait, all? How many people are in the land at this time? Okay.
Gotta be a lot.
Like, gotta be a ton. How many people can a castle fit?
But then too, it's like how many people actually show up? You might invite.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, how many? Do you think you'd have to RSVP to the event? Like, do people just show up?
Do you do that by carrier pigeon or?
Yeah.
You would think though it would have to be he invited quote unquote all the land, but the whole point was to find somebody to marry the boy, right? The prince.
I mean, they don't say that in the story, but probably.
Because it's like they might quote unquote say all the land, but I guarantee you they only invited upper class. All the land of upper class.
Yeah. So in 1715, there were about 23 million people in France.
Okay, so 1500s, I said it was about 15 million is what I found. So this is a little bit after. So that makes sense.
Yeah, and mine was the 6. Yeah, I mean, all the land, he'd have to have only a province or something, one would assume. It couldn't be like
all
the king, the prince of France.
Yeah, all of his land.
Yeah, a minor prince. I'm not sure. So the 2 stepsisters, they're stoked. They get their stuff. They're taunting Cinderella.
Stoned. I was like, geez.
As the stepsisters and stepmother leave, Cinderella is crying her eyes out, and her fairy godmother magically appears and immediately begins to transform Cinderella from house servant to the young lady she was by birth, all in the effort to get her to the ball. Okay, so this is the version that became very popular because of all these additions. Before, they didn't have any fairy godmother in it. They didn't have any of this other stuff.
The additions of positivity.
Yeah. So the fairy godmother turns a pumpkin into a golden carriage. Okay, I'm really hoping that this golden carriage, like, it's a pumpkin that doesn't just look like a golden carriage, but is one, because I cannot even imagine the, like gooey mess that the inside of that carriage would be.
I know everyone jumps on this whole pumpkin spice thing in the fall, but that's just not me. I couldn't do pumpkin.
I like pumpkin everything but pumpkin pie, and I don't like that at all. I'm thinking just the inside of a pumpkin, like when I carve a pumpkin, how gross it is. I feel like she'd get in looking beautiful and then come out looking like she just climbed out of Gog Magog's nose hole.
Yeah, right. Maybe the fairy godmother is just a champion pumpkin carver, and she just really gets that sucker clean.
Maybe. She also turns mice into horses, which, do they still have the temperament of mice?
That'd be horrible.
Because, that's a terrible animal. So
that's a terrible animal.
The horses are trained in order to pull carriages. It's not just something horses are born knowing how to do.
Yeah.
And it's not just simply hooking them up to it and saying go, okay? They have to work in teams, and they have to know,
I've never seen mice work in teams, and
me neither.
Work with purpose.
And these poor mice that were just minding their own business, and they just got turned into horses, and then were strapped to this carriage. Like,
wasn't the one in Disney's named Gus Gus? That was the only one I remember.
Yeah,
Gus, the little chubby one. Gus Gus.
Yeah. And I'm picturing, like, anytime they see any other animal, they would just bolt.
Freak out. Yeah. They have to. They're mice, yeah.
She turned a rat into a coachman, which again, temperament, but at least on the plus side, rats are incredibly clean creatures, so this coachman would probably look pretty nice. And they're also very intelligent, so hopefully that would help this rat know where he was going. She also turned lizards into footmen. Footmen are kind of like servants, in a way. I mean, like they're a type of servant, but yeah. So lizards, again, temperament. I feel like a lizard would not be a very...
where'd she get some lizards and... Like, what kind of... Go ahead, continue.
I was also wondering what kind of lizards are in France.
Okay. Look it up, go ahead.
Okay. I'm imagining it's the kind they can just drop their tails, and so something just happens and their butt falls off.
There are 7 species of lizard in France, but only the slow worm Anguis fragilis and the common wall lizard can be found in all parts of France.
Okay, so it's probably one of those two that they churned.
And they totally can drop their tails.
Yeah, so, yeah. I'm sure the fragile, like that name sounds like it should. So yeah. She transformed into human, and then when they get scared, their butt cheeks just fall off.
Pop right off. Brilliant.
Before then, they had some junk in the trunk. So she then turns Cinderella's rags into a beautiful jeweled gown, and complete with a pair of delicate glass slippers. Why? Why? Who in their right mind would ever wear glass slippers to a dance, okay? Much less anywhere else, but like
okay, Laura, not everyone dances like you, okay?
Yeah.
So
very true.
They might be a little gentler.
Anyone who's dancing at all should not be wearing glass on their feet. That's just crazy.
That's just an ER trip waiting to happen. Yeah. Then you gotta call the lizards back and like get in your slimy pumpkin and you just arrive at the ER doctor. And you just slip right out of there. You just like
ew. In a mixture of pumpkin guts and blood. Her Achilles tendon just gone.
Which out of everything, that's like the worst muscle to cut, and that would be the one that would happen.
Glass slippers. Why? I would be so pissed at my fairy godmother for making me glass slippers.
These are impractical.
This is the most impractical shoe. You don't love me.
That would be me. I'd be pissed off at the glass slippers, but where are my pockets, damn it? Like
Yeah. So godmother, of course, tells her she's got to be done by midnight or the spell will be broken. So she goes, she has a freaking blast. Thinks she's awesome. She goes home far before midnight in this version. She goes back and her stepsisters can't stop talking about this beautiful girl that they saw, which, again, vision problems? Like, how do they not? I mean, I guess if you're not expecting to see someone somewhere, then you might not, but like, come on.
Yeah.
So then she goes back a second night because there's apparently this party is like an ongoing one.
I mean, it would make sense. If you're going to invite all those people, might as well.
Yeah. So they have another ball. She has even more fun. The prince becomes infatuated with her. She is infatuated with him. She forgets about the time. And then, of course, the last stroke of midnight happens. She's running for it because the spell's about to be broken and she knows she's about to turn back into plain Jane.
And her glass slippers is like ting, 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 ting.
Yeah. She is running as fast as she can in glass freaking slippers. And of course, being glass slippers, they're probably really slippery.
With pumpkin sludge in it, like no less.
So one just flumps right off of it. And so the prince chases her out, and the guards only see a simple country girl leave, and the prince pockets the slippers and vows to marry the girl to whom it belongs.
How big are his pockets?
Very true. Freaking men and their lucky deep pockets.
He's just like, I'm gonna hunt her down. I need to know who she is. Let me just keep her shoes in my pockets. Yeah, I'm just
What a
gonna
creep.
pocket these slippers and I'm gonna find her.
But also I've always been confused as to why the glass slipper didn't disappear. If all they saw was a country girl running away, the dress obviously did and all the other stuff, why would the glass slipper stick
maybe
around?
Maybe it had to be attached to her or something.
Her body? Yeah, I don't know. She could have kept her clothes in if she just would have chucked them off.
I need to save this for later. Rip it off. Just running naked through the woods. One glass slipper on, no less.
What a mess.
By that time, she's gonna be like wobbling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's uneven, so it's like
probably all of us ladies have had to do like a one heel walk before. Not fun.
No.
Unless they were flats. At least I would be like, at least the godmother would hopefully have given her flats.
No, there's no way. There's gotta be at least a little bit of a heel. It's gotta be at least. I mean, if she's gonna go and she's gonna look good, you know, heels make your butt look good. Yeah, but you know what I mean? Boost you up a little bit. So I mean,
but
she's gonna go with a heel.
Slipper a heel? I don't know. So
I just always assumed it was a slipper because she slips her foot in it.
I always assumed it was a slipper because it was flat. I don't know. Maybe it's only because that's what it's like in the movie. Well, I guess it has a tasteful small heel. Okay, so the Princess Herald tries the slipper on all the women in the kingdom, which would have taken forever.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the gross feet that poor man had to deal with?
What was 1600s?
Yeah.
It's gotta be some nasty feet.
Some nasty feet. nasty feet. So when the herald arrives,
and hairy, it's got to be hairy and
I mean, yeah,
just gross, crusty.
the toenails, yeah. When the herald arrives at Cinderella's home, stepsisters, of course, try it. That doesn't work out. So then Cinderella says, "Hey, can I try it on?" Naturally, the slipper fits perfectly. Okay,
of course.
I feel like there would have had to be how surely. There were other people in this kingdom with the same shoe size as Cinderella. Unless she had some really freaky feet. Okay?
Not only that, but it was as the glass was still cooling, the godmother slipped them on. And you know what I mean? So it would have to be a perfect freaky
Oh my gosh!
fit.
Okay, well in that case, then Cinderella has no skin left on her feet. Molded to her feet with molten glass. They would never have come off, Katie. They would have been on forever.
Well, yeah, it would. With all that pumpkin crap in there. Of course it's going to slip right out.
Lubricated. Her skin just sloughs right off. That's so disgusting. Ew. So I'm just thinking that she must have real freaky feet. So either she's got the tiniest feet that nobody else has. Ew,
an extra toe.
Or some people have feet that face freaky directions.
Yeah.
So she's got just messed up feet. And Cinderella produces, it says in the story, Cinderella produces the other slipper for good measure. I would be so pissed if I was the footman and I'd have to go around putting these shoes on everybody when this chick right here could have just said, "It's me.
Hey,
I have it.
Yeah.
I have proof."
Yeah.
Freaking Cinderella. So her whole family pleads for forgiveness, and Cinderella, being the goody two shoes that she is, forgives everyone because she hoped that her stepfamily would love her always. I feel like Cinderella needs a lot of therapy.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, that is
some
called
codependence.
Toxicity. Yeah, toxicity. That's a toxic family environment. You need some space, some distance. Yeah, cut ties, and you need time to heal. That's what you need to do, Cinderella.
So she married the prince, she forgives her stepsisters, and they all live happily ever after. Except for that they don't mention anything about the stepmother or her dad. So, don't know.
Maybe they're the ones that are dead to her now. She cut them off.
Maybe she forgave the sisters because she knew it wasn't their fault. It was their mom's influence.
Maybe it was therapy paid off.
And so they say that the moral of the story is that beauty is a treasure, but graciousness is priceless. And without it, nothing is possible, and with it, one can do anything.
I'm judgmental of that, but...
Graciousness? It's a very interesting, graciousness is priceless. Okay. But then apparently there's a second moral to the story, though, that this guy says that without doubt, it is a great advantage to have intelligence, courage, good breeding, and common sense.
Good breeding?
Good breeding. These and similar talents come only from heaven, and it is good to have them. However, even these may fail to bring you success without the blessing of a godfather or godmother.
Or just a distinct foot shape. Like, that's really what saved her, is a distinct foot shape.
Distinct foot shape. So, yeah, their story could have gone a lot of different ways. Probably could have ended far earlier if she would have just showed up with that slipper.
Yeah, I just said, hey,
or just simply told him her name.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Cinderella.
1 to 2 nights hanging out with somebody and not... But then maybe it was like one of those situations where she's hours into it and he's already said his name and she doesn't want to like reintroduce herself, so then it gets awkward and then you're like, you know what?
Yeah.
We've been hanging out too long now. It's way too... I totally work with some people that I probably see them at least once or twice a week, and I'm like, at this point, it's too weird to ask them their name.
Agreed. I'm the same way.
I've worked there for 4 years now. And it's just
same.
Too much time has gone on, so maybe it was just one of those things. She's like probably already made out with this guy and is like, you know what, I'm in too deep, can't ask him what his name is now. Just gotta go with it.
Or she doesn't say her name, like, because he can't remember hers. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Basic social skills, folks. Could have saved a lot of time.
Yeah.
A lot of time here. Alrighty, well, that was a fun episode. All right, everybody. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. This would be kind of a fun one, too, if you hop over to one of our channels or send us a message on
another
fairy tale that you like, and like just little snippets of what you would think would be more scientifically accurate. Because this one would be a funny one to hear from people, too, is their different takes on things. It'd be funny.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to be our stories. It could be any fairy tale that you've come across. And you'd be like, you know what? I've always thought about this one, and this would be better if X, Y, Z. So yeah, definitely let us know. Check us out on Patreon. Go talk to us on Twitter. And until then, we will talk to you guys next week.
Bye, everyone.